So you are aspiring to be an economist.
Hmm.
So how's your take? Will you be in India or not? So that is the first question. You will be also graduating from a place. So
So,
take it.
well, I can't answer this question right.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on our first episode of the show, we have Saakshi Duseja, an IIM doctor candidate who's working on migration. In this interview, we'll discuss things like migration, life at IIM, and many things more. I know this will be a delight for everyone tuning in. So, delegates and audience, whoever is tuning in, DPSEMUN presents the SecGen Show.
So hello Sakshi. For those who do not know her, uh, she is a doctoral candidate, and coming from IIM, you can already have seen her in my introduction. So as you're the first guest of our SecGen show, which we are having in Delhi Public School and the United Nations. Uh, it's an honor for me to interview you, and to all the it will be a I know this will be a pleasurable and an exciting and interesting interview where all of the delegates and the people who will be watching this will learn a lot from this. So, hi Sakshi, for those who don't, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself from your side, sir?
Thank you, Tamkeshwar. So, I'd like to thank the DPS LDCO team, MUN team, for having me here and letting me share my views and talking about my work. And I hope that whoever is going to listen to this video or the interview or the podcast, whatever you call it, so I hope it's interesting for everyone. And I am Sakshi. I'm Saakshi Duseja. I'm currently a doctoral candidate, economics group with IIM Calcutta. So I did my bachelor's and master's both in economics, post which I've joined IIM, and I'm currently working in the area of migration. So I hope this discussion is going to be fruitful today.
Yeah, so actually, I have a lot of pressure because my economics teacher will be seeing this, and if I do not, if I make a mistake here and there and quoting wrong things, so I
No,
wish
then
you.
the
So,
teacher professor might judge me also if I make a mistake because even I am a student right now.
so, so first of all, to begin every conversation, can we discuss how IIM Calcutta is? Because a lot of students and people who will be listening in, they will be aspiring to go there. And so, what was your experience in IIM Calcutta?
So the good thing about the PhD program at IIM Calcutta is that I can talk from the perspective of both an MBA student and a PhD student also, because since our entire course, 2 years of our course is dedicated to entirely MBA classes. So we are doing the MBA with the MBA students and sitting in their classes, experiencing all the same
Okay.
assignments, same presentations, same pressure. So that way, I feel that a PhD, because we are doing a PhD from a management school. So we are being trained to become a professor at a management school. So we should know what the pressure is, what pressure the students face, what kind of activities they do. So hence, that is how the curriculum is designed. So talking from perspective, since I've attended 2 years of classes with the MBA
Yeah.
students, so talking from
Yes.
their perspective also, what happens is that first year is extremely tough. So
Yes.
there's a lot of, there's relative marking, there are continuous assignments, continuous tests. Like
Yes.
one, you have classes from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the evening. Then you have some of the other assignments, some of the other presentation. You have surprise tests sometimes in classes, and on and above that, there are also certain regular activities that go on. Whether sports, whether cultural, and on top of that, people who are sitting for, not for us but for MBA students, people who are sitting for placements, they have regular sessions, placement meetings.
Yes.
They have meetings with companies who are coming up. They have meetings with senior students who guide them in making their CV. Then there are mock tests they can use for which can be helpful in when they go for their interviews. So the
So
life.
the opportunity they get as a student is very enormous there.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And it's extremely hectic. But what they are doing is they are training you for the future. Because,
great.
for example, I'll just give you one example. In 2020, I think, yeah, 20, I joined the program in 2020 during the COVID period. And I had an exam on the Diwali day. So
Okay.
imagine the entire country is shut, but I had an exam on the Diwali day,
Yeah, so,
and then after that also 1 day ka break tha. We had 1 day break, and
mhm,
then I don't know what day Diwali was, but we had a 1 day break, and then we had another exam. So it wasn't that we could
great.
enjoy Diwali also. We had to sit. We had no other choice. So they're
So,
training you.
like after so much of work, and how did you actually develop an interest in economics and to just study to the level of PhD and doing a doctoral? So, where did you think that this is the subject I'm gonna see forward? Because economic, I think so. Like for me, like I'm a PCM plus economics in my stream I've chosen, and the people who think like that's a career suicide. What are you doing? So, like people do usually take computer science, but personally, I have an interest in economics because I do know I think so that in economics you can learn about the human's behavior more than the psychology
Mhm.
in some aspects of it because it relates to the working of an individual and to a macro level. So, how did you develop an interest?
So my interest started developing in school itself when I was in class 11, 12. So 11th,
Great,
I think the curriculum now might have changed, but in our time we had Indian economy in class 11 and then we had micro macro in class 12. So in class 11, I was not that interested. I mean, it was like fine, just just another
great,
subject. But when I came in class 12, it was micro and macro which interested me the most. Um, you as a normal student it usually happens like if you like some subject, if you're enjoying some subject, you're going to score well in
yeah,
that. So that was the thrill that I used to get. Like I
yeah,
always scored very good in economic subjects. So that was when I, and also at home I used to, my parents used to watch a lot of economic times TV and then newspapers they used to read, they used to discuss at home. So maybe that was the
okay.
thing that pushed me towards it. And
So the
then
whole ambience you had, the whole
yeah,
atmosphere
exactly, it
that
was
was
the
developed.
environment. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, actually. So, can you tell us something that you're actually the whole your doctoral, your PhD, what you're working on, the topic you're working on
Okay,
at IIM Calcutta. So,
yeah,
yeah,
so currently I am working in the area of migration, which comes in the
great,
development economics domain. And so we're supposed to have 3 chapters in our thesis. The first chapter, I've just, my proposal is due in July. So third year, after completing your coursework of 2 years, third year is dedicated to the proposal where you have
great,
to give your research question and all, like what are you going to do in future. And then next 2, 3 years, whatever time period is there, you have to do your work, like practically do
great,
your work. So now what I'm doing is just about to complete my third year next month. So what I've done till now is I've made a draft of a. We're supposed to have 3 chapters, so I've made a draft of the first chapter. So what I'm doing in the first chapter
great,
is. Uh, you might be thinking of some intuitive factors that have an impact on migration. For example, me as an individual, my parents belong to Delhi, but I migrated to Calcutta in order to study because I got admission here. So this can be one of the reasons. Another
great,
reason can be that some family members from my family have migrated and I'm a dependent, so I
hmm,
have to migrate. Third reason can be economic, in terms of better economic opportunity, for better
great,
economic opportunities, for better livelihood. So majorly the major reason for migration which has been found out is economic factors like improving your livelihood,
hmm,
etc. So what we're doing in the first chapter is we have tried to see the impact of the various factors on the probability of migration. So which
okay.
factor leads to greater likelihood of migration. And this we have done across 2 decades, starting from
Great.
1999 till 2020. So uh,
So just a second, the people who do not actually know the proper definition of migration, so what constitutes the factors that determine that they are migrating, they are considered to be migrating. So am I traveling to Uttarakhand and doing a 1 month work? Is that migration? And coming back, so I'm working from home from Uttarakhand and just a summer break. Is that migration?
So the definition of migration might differ depending on which country you are in, which state
Great,
you are. So for example, in India, the National Sample Survey Organization, since I'm using their data, I have used their definition of migration. So how they define
great,
migration is as, uh, if you have left your past location, For example, if I
Hmm.
was in Delhi, if you have left it for more than a period of 6 months, and that means you're staying in the current location for a period of more than 6 months. So at least
Right.
6 months. Then it is defined as migration.
Okay.
So your
So,
the difference
yeah.
between the
So,
stay duration of your current location and the past location should be minimum 6 months.
yeah, and ongoing years, you're studying the probability of migration from where people are
Correct.
returning. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Please continue.
So there are three major factors of migration. One is, as per the past literature that I have found. So there are micro factors. Now, micro factors, the first thing that comes in mind is individual. So exactly, it's
Yes.
related to individuals. So my age, my education, the caste actually belongs to the household. So whether individual or household factors. So your caste,
Yes.
your income level, etc, whether you belong to your social group, whether you belong to the general category or SC, minorities, etc.
Yes.
And then we move to macro level factors. So what are macro level factors? They are based on the entire economy. So for example,
Yes.
the rainfall pattern in the past location that I belong to. If I was working in agriculture and either there was extremely less rainfall, that is drought condition, or extremely high rainfall, then how will I earn
Correct.
my livelihood? So if the
Correct.
climate is not conducive to the work type of work I am involved in, then I might have to shift. So climate can be one of the reasons. Or
Yeah.
income, GDP per capita, that can be one of the reasons. For example, in Bihar, Bihar is one of the states which exhibits highest out migration. Why? Because the GDP per capita in Bihar and UP are extremely low. So
So
that
can you tell the definition of GDP per capita for those who do not know? So what GDP per capita is?
so GDP
Correct.
is the gross. Should I explain gross domestic product also?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Please, the people will be it'll be easier for them to understand the whole concept of it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
every economy, for example, the kind of in very crude terms, not in terms of any economic language or anything, in very crude terms, whatever transactions that you make, whether you're selling, whether you're buying, how will you actually quantify that in a specific magnitude? So
Great.
whatever business transactions are happening in an economy, that is the value of the goods and services that you're selling or purchasing. How will you quantify that? So in order to quantify that, the World Bank or the UN or different countries, what they've come up, what they use
Great.
is the gross domestic product. And what per capita means is, for example, the GDP of India. For example, a few days back I was reading that India has crossed 3 trillion economy, dollar
Yeah.
economy,
Yes.
etc. So how do you convert that into per capita terms? Now we can think, wow, 3 trillion, it's a lot. $3 trillion, this is this and that. It's a lot. It's a lot. But you also have to see the population of the country. Now, 3 trillion in US versus 3 trillion in India is not the same. Now, maybe 3 trillion in US might be a lot, though it is not for them. But maybe
Yes.
if they have a if they have lesser population, then the amount of money is divided into lesser number of people. But in India, where we have so many people, you might still see that the per capita GDP is coming out to be very low. So that is an indicator of
Actually.
the economy's
Yes.
economic
Actually.
performance. So GDP actually indicates
Yes.
the economic performance of the country, how much you're buying and selling, and
Yes.
per capita is in
So,
terms of the population divided by the
so even
GDP for the entire economy divided by the total population.
even for the migration, I mean, there are a lot of committees that are simulated in our in the whole circuit per se. So we actually migration is a bigger issue than in real terms also, because where we can see and actually it involves a lot of human rights issues where refugees are sent to different countries due to some force factors, as you're saying, due to some economic factors or due to a war, which might be where the geographical location might be not feasible for them to live on.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you have researched a lot about this and you have completed the first chapter of your PhD, do you like what say do you think? What can you give, like, if there will be the is migration beneficial for an economies, or will it differ for developed countries different, or will it be a different thing for third world countries?
So there can be no concrete answer to this, because see what happens in migration is there can be a lot of aspects. So, for example, if a huge cohort is, migrating from, say, India to the
Right.
US. So we have seen a lot of migration from India to the US, especially the higher educated people, mostly in IT, etc. Or maybe, even for research and all, a lot of people want to go to the US because the research facilities are very good there. But
Right.
what happens is either when, for example, if higher educated people are going, there can be two things. One thing is, I'm taking my skill there, so the skill might improve there. The skill set of all the people might improve in that location. For example, Indians going
Hmm.
from the US, the skill set might improve. But on the other hand, if, for example, in India, if people are migrating, for example, from Bangladesh or Myanmar, from lower developed countries or developing countries, if they are migrating to India, now India does not have too many skilled jobs. India has a
Right.
higher percentage of unskilled jobs. So the unemployment rate might increase because the absorption rate, that is so there's an economic model also that relates to it, but I will not get into that. I'll just tell you in crude terms that if people are coming from say Myanmar, Bangladesh to India, the number of jobs that are currently present, they might be lesser than the number of people that come to India. So the absorption rate is less,
Right.
and that increases the unemployment rate and poverty, inequality, etc. for the people who are migrating, and also for the people who are natives. So because there's a lot of competition now, Indians might be competing with Bangladeshi people who come here. For example, in West Bengal.
Right.
So it depends on the location also. For example, in lower developed countries, in if somebody is coming to India, though India is in a better position than Bangladesh or Myanmar, etc. But still, it might they people here might be hit. On the other hand, for a country like US, if people from India are going, for example,
Yeah.
if people from Bangladesh are going to US, not degrading any country, but if some lesser skilled person from India or Bangladesh is going to US, it the person might the economy might not benefit that much. But a
Right.
higher educated person from India goes there, for example, Satya Nadella and all. I mean, higher educated people
Yes. Yes.
there,
Obviously,
so
the
it
the
increases the.
CEOs that we have been exporting to other nations
Yeah,
and
it's brain
multinational
drain. It's
companies.
for India,
Yeah.
it's brain drain actually, and for
Yes.
US, it's brain gain because they are getting higher educated people. The skill set, the intellectual set is increasing there. So it
I mean,
depends.
I was studying the tech boom and that how India profited from it because they were getting cheap labor from India and to do their work, and from how that came to be, and how Wipro and other companies that are multinational companies right now from India have profited from them. So
Yeah, in
there
fact,
comes a there comes a natural question because if we deal with all of India, and there have been you we have seen legislation to restrict immigration from different countries such as of Rohingyas and everything, and there have been a lot of controversies around it, like the bill CAA. So so do you think we should take in people from Bangladesh or different neighboring countries, and will they be useful to us, or should we restrict higher immigration or not?
So, in my opinion, I think as of now, the condition of India, we don't need any people from outside.
Right.
The kind of whether it is unorganized sector, whether it is unskilled people or skilled people, we have plenty. We have lesser number of jobs available, but we have more number of people. So in
Right.
fact, if people are coming from outside India, especially the lower skilled people, if they're coming from outside India, then it's going to be a burden for the country. It is not going to be very beneficial. And anyway, see why, for example, US used to outsource a lot of their work to India, especially in the IT department. Why? Because it was cheap labor here. I can't call it cheap labor because IT department cannot be you cannot term it as
Right.
labor. but
Absolutely.
but you can because the services were cheaper here. So we why other countries used to outsource work here is because of cheap labor, but India itself has cheap people, so it doesn't need people from outside, or it doesn't need to have people from Bangladesh. We anyway have very cheap labor here, whether especially in the unskilled domain, unskilled cohort, and in skilled also. Compared to the other countries, you're getting very good skill set at a lower rate, lower
Right.
salaried people. For example, the similar person might be earning more in the US but lesser here with a similar intellectual skill set.
Right.
Skill set.
Right.
So
So the students who are aspiring to leave the country, so is it a good news for them or a bad news? So will they get a spot in the whole world stage and international stage, or will they not? That remains a question, right? So because we
so
have seen reading news that there may not be a lot of there may be a decrease in communities where US was also feeling that we should not we should give more domicile reservations to people, and there may have been a discussion. So, as an economist, so as a to be an economist or studying a scholar, so do you think what India can do better in places where migration and our own development is concerned?
you mean migration to
Do you
India?
think that the migration should be governed properly by the government or should be controlled? My question is that it should be moderated or regulated by the government so
Okay,
that we can
okay.
better manage migration
So
as
yes,
a development.
even yeah, yeah, correct. Even this has two sides to it, both in and out migration. So the government should, as of now, the government should control in migration, especially of the
Right,
lower skill set. You know, people coming from the Rohingyas. There was a lot of debate a few months back. Rohingyas or people from Bangladesh, etc. For example, a lot of illegal immigrants in Bangladesh who did not have any identity. So,
right,
what was NRC about? It was about all of that. That there were so many illegal immigrants here. So, in terms of lower skilled people, yes, it should be governed. There should be a strict, eye on who is coming into the country, how they're coming into the country, which route they are taking, and why they're coming into the country. And for out migration also, so for medium skill set, it's still fine. But for
right,
higher skill set, India is losing a lot of their, higher intellectual, like intellectuals, because there's a lot of brain drain that has happened.
right,
I don't know if it's the right platform or not, but one example is Raghuram Rajan.
right,
So why did he leave the country? He was serving here. I'm sure he's earning much better. I think he's in Chicago Boot School. I'm not sure. I think he's teaching. He's a professor there, but he was only serving his country here. He had no vested interest. He had no interest in terms of money. Also, he can earn much more there, but
right,
he, because of whatever bureaucracy, whatever happened, he had to leave the country. So it was a major brain drain for the country. This is just one example. So in terms of that also, taking care of people who have a higher skill set, who are more intellectual, that is paying them so that they do not have to move out. And not just pay, why people move out of the country, there are a lot of factors. For example, if US
right,
in US people pay a lot of tax. Why doesn't it pinch them like India people? You've heard about tax chori, tax evasion. Why do people not
right,
want to pay tax here? Because they feel that giving it to the government is a waste. The government is not doing anything for you. There, everything is taken care of. Education is taken care
right,
of. In old age, medical is taken care of. Insurance is there. Everything is taken care of by the government. So that is
right,
that. So in that terms also, it's a long way to go in order to avoid brain drain and out migration. Especially in migration, too, you will get a lot of unskilled people that you can you have to control. But out migration, to control brain drain, it is not just one factor that is give them high pay. There are a lot of other factors. So the overall development of the country is important. Your
right.
education, your health, especially health. So
Yes.
yeah, I think
So
both sides need to be taken care of, but not just by paying them more, or but a lot of other factors have to be kept in mind. Which is in one line when I say it, it's very short, but you
yeah,
have to do
actually,
so much groundwork, so
the
much research. It can take years and years.
so the challenges we face as a country, and even our prime minister is on a visit to
Yeah,
United States,
yeah.
where he is attending to the one of the second, I think so. US has the second of the most from the international diaspora there, and so seeing them all, and he has went to Sydney also, where he said that whenever you're coming back to India, bring a few families, few Australian families for tourism, and show them that we have a better relationship with them. So yeah, actually, it has a negative and a positive side. Negative is that we are not having them in our country and directly contributing to our GDP in an
Hmm.
economic term. And but also we are also having this international community where we are NRIs and people who are can support us from international stage.
Hmm.
And so the people, so how do you think that in an Indian context, so we are good for an international context. So the challenges we face. So you are aspiring to be an economist.
Hmm.
So how's your take? Will you be in India or not? So that is the first question. You will be also graduating from a place. So
So,
right,
well, I can't answer this question right now. It depends on the, like, if given a personal choice, I wouldn't want to stay in India because of the factors that I mentioned. Your, your personal living, your everything is taken care of by the government. But on the other hand, this is just, from a selfish point of view. But on the other hand, I would like to point out that you know, I don't know if it makes relevance here or not, but yeah, this is one of the psychological factors that restricts people from migrating. In India, you have the emotional support of your family. So a lot of
right,
people do not want to migrate because of the network that they have in the country. So this is also one of the factors that we've included in our migration study, network formation. So
right,
a lot of rural people, they do not want to migrate from rural to urban. Why? Because they have an existing social security network in their district or state or town, wherever they're living. And when once you, and especially a culture like in the, I'm just comparing with the US. In the US countries, the culture is extremely different compared to the Indian society. So these are certain
right,
psychological factors, network formation. But on the other hand, for example, there are families, for example, I'm in our family only. There's one family friend whose husband went out to the US, and he was working in the US. Then his one kid went, then the other kid went, then the third kid went. So the network, and
right,
now the entire family is going to be settled in the US. So since one person went, they formed a network there, like they had a link. So that helped the other people also to move. But when you don't have anybody there, it is a psychological factor which might restrict people from migrating. So yeah, if
yeah,
I
absolutely,
look at it from the economic point of view or the facilities point of view, I would want to migrate. But yeah, I would still, on the other hand, I would like to weigh. My family is going to be here. Should I take my family or not? Should I go there alone? Should I leave my
right,
social network here or not? Because why social network is important? For example, if you fall into some trouble here, you know that people are going to be around you who can help you, whether be it physical, emotional, or financial terms. But when you move to some other foreign location,
right.
then you might be a little scared,
You might have a problem.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's a basic human psychology
yeah, so
where
apart from, yeah,
one would
exactly.
feel not most comfortable. He will not be most productive, or yeah.
So yeah, this is
So
this. Why I want to stress this is now, in the recent times, the studies have not been restricted to just economic aspects. There is an entire what domain called behavioral economics. So they,
yeah,
in that, they take into account the psychology of the people. So that is, these factors are being taken into account.
great. So thank you, Sakshi, for explaining migration. I think so. A lot of people will be learning from this and understanding migration, because if you do not understand how people move, I don't think so. In a globalized world, you can actually understand globalization correctly. And in those terms, I wanted to ask this question that you refer to as you have done a few MUNs, right, in your school
Oh,
time,
that was really long back, yeah.
right? So how do you like? Do you think that MUNs are good for a student level where he's in a school level? So is that beneficial for it? Whatever you have done, yeah,
Definitely,
your experience,
110%. I think I was not that involved. I mean, not like you, the way you people are
yeah,
involved. I just attended, like, I think two. And but the experience that I felt was enormous, immense. Matlab, people, what happens is you're not For example, if we're sitting in our country, we'll just mostly learn about what is happening in and around our country. Even the news channels and all, they might be focusing only on the
Right.
things that are going on in our country. But
Right.
when you move after your, for example, you're in 12th right now, when you go to college, when you go, if you want to go abroad, you need to have global knowledge. So what are the issues each country is facing, and what are the issues that all countries together might be facing. For example,
Right.
climate change. Climate change, one country can't do anything. You have to work with other nations. So when you meet people, you interact with them, you learn about different things, you are getting an opportunity to read about other nations, and you want to debate about it. Only then you can be strong and confident enough to, later, if you want to go
Right.
into international relations or become an economist or want to go into international politics. So how are you going to do
Right.
it? So it's a great platform and it's a great opportunity. I feel everybody who gets a chance should do it at least once.
Yeah, actually. If you want to recommend few books that students can read to understand economics, so have like from what you have read, so what will be those like?
So, one book I would recommend is Frankenstein, Wealth of the Nations by Adam Smith, the father of economics, who's called
Yeah.
Adam Smith. That is one book. But on the other hand, I would like to recommend, I'm forgetting the author's name, but the book's name is Frankenstein. So that
Yeah.
is a book which you can, you will not feel like you're reading economics. So for people who are not interested in economics, but they want to learn economics, or they don't know much about economics, it's a very basic book and it's a fun book. Like you won't get bored. Like certain people, I'm sure it's everybody's interest. A lot of people get bored. Are economics? It's too this thing. How will you read it and all?
Yes,
But
actually.
that is a book that you will not get bored with. So for a start, so for fresh people, Frankenstein is the book that I would Franken and Stein. So
Sure,
Frankenstein.
we'll give them the a proper description of
Yeah.
that book. So thank you, Sakshi, for being in our show, and this was nice talking to you. And we got a new thing to learn. My editors are literally smiling right now because they were like they really enjoyed the show themselves. So I hope this will be a delight for everyone who's going to hear. Thank you, Sakshi, for being with us.
Okay.